Hello everyone, this is Anna from Exploration Point. I'm in Exploration Point right now, and I'm the only one in here, which is why I don't have my mask on. But I am here to show you guys how to make a nature fractal suncatcher craft. And I'm going to include a bit of information about fractals in these slides that are coming up now. So to start off, what exactly is a fractal? So essentially, fractals are a math term that refer to a pattern that displays similarity through a range of scale. In easier terms, it's patterns that look the same no matter how large or small they are. So you can see from the pictures here that you have patterns, but as they repeat, they get smaller, but they still look alike. You can see with my cursor, you can see that this image here, it branches off, and each of these branches look the same, but they do change in size. It's similar to these spirals here. A spiral is a good example of a fractal because you start out very large and get small, but it remains looking the same. And another good example is this branch pattern here. You see how it starts off as one large branch, separates into two. Each of these two branches separates into two more, and so on. It gets smaller and smaller as it goes, but it still looks alike. Fractals actually come up in the world a lot more than you might think they do. They're used a lot in technology. They're used to create a better signal for TV antennas or radio. And they often appear in plants because they help plants to photosynthesize by creating a surface. And you can learn a lot more about that in better terms through the link included on this slide here. Fractals very often appear in nature. You can see in these images here, you can see the snowflake that you see. It's just like those tree branches, that it starts off with a big branch, and then you have these little branches that all go into their own little branches, all while looking the same. This leaf's a really good example because you can see how it starts off with big leaves and branches off into small ones. And of course we have our tree branch, like the one I showed you earlier, but this is a naturally occurring one. And if you go over to our next slide, you can see a whole bunch more fractals from nature. You can see even in flowers, you can see how we have that repeating pattern that gets larger and larger. Same thing with the pine cone here and this cactus. You've got the cool spiral going here too. We've got our tree branches branching off and getting smaller and smaller. I think this leaf here is a really great example because you can see how each branch branches off and gets smaller and smaller, but it still retains that pattern. And the same is with this shell. It's the same spiral effect. So essentially what we're looking for here when we think about nature fractals is, do I see a repeating pattern? And does it look the same no matter what? It gets smaller or larger, but it still looks the same. And we're going to use this to make our own craft. We're going to make a suncatcher with a nature fractal. So you need everything that's listed here. Most importantly, you're going to need to go on a walk somewhere. You can put on a mask and go to a park, use your backyard or your garden. You can even use a house plant if you have one. But I'll go into this in more detail in the video. So let's go back to the video. So now that we've learned about fractals in nature, we're going to look for these patterns in order to make a cool suncatcher out of a paper plate. And in order to do this craft, you're going to need a paper plate. A little one will work fine. You'll need some kind of tracing paper. I've got like a roll of it here. If you can see, it's like a thin paper that you can see through. If you don't have official tracing paper at home, you can try using like butcher paper or wax paper may even work. Tissue paper will probably work well. You just gotta be really careful that you don't tear it because you're gonna be drawing on it. You'll need some scissors and some colored pencils. And you'll need a place where you can go look for some nature. You can try a garden, put on a mask and head to a park and take a walk. I'm going to go figure out where I'm going to go and show you what to do next. So when you go on your nature walk, you're going to think about the slides that I showed you guys earlier, and you're going to look for some patterns. You might look for flowers or tree branches. And wherever you go, you're going to want to take a few pictures when you see these repeating patterns. So when you see a fractal, take a picture of it. So I am at the library, and we're closer to the Walmart and such than most nature, but we do have this little garden. So I'm going to take my nature walk here. You can already see some neat patterns. If you look at this bush here, you can see how the leaves repeat and create a fractal pattern. I'm going to keep going, see what else I find. And remember, once you find something that you want to use, take a picture of it because you'll want to print that out. I think these flowers here are a really good example. Oh, hello butterfly. Got a friend there. Because you can see how it starts with one branch and then branches off, and it keeps branching off into different kind of spokes, for lack of a better. Oh, we got a bumblebee. Hello, friend. We're gonna let bumblebee do their job. Oop. But you can see how it branches off and creates a pattern, just like the fractals we looked at in our PowerPoint. Alright, I am back from my nature walk to the library garden, and I took a picture of this little flower here because I liked how visible the fractals were. You can see how it starts here and the pattern branches off. So you have a branch off here and here, and then that branches off, and those even branch off further, so you can see a really clear fractal shape. And I'm going to use that as the basis for my suncatcher. The next step you want to do after that then is take your paper plate, and you see a lot of paper plates already have like a little built-in circle. You're going to fold your plate in half and cut a little slit in the middle. And then with your scissors in that slit, you're going to cut out that middle circle. And mine's a really little. Pretty much what you're doing is making a frame out of the edge of the paper plate. I'm going to cut a little bit beyond that circle because I don't need my frame to be that big. But I'm pretty much just going to follow that circle as a line. If your plate doesn't already have a built-in circle on it, you can just try grab a bowl, a plate, or a glass and use that to trace a circle on your plate. And I am going to just cut that out. And now I have a frame. Next up, I'm going to take some of my paper off this roll. And can I bring this down so you see? Oh, fantastic. I'm going to find a pencil, and I'm going to trace the circle that I made onto my paper. Onto my tissue paper, tracing paper, whatever it is you might be using. I'm going to clean up my circle a little bit too. Alright, so I'm going to use that as a guideline. I'm going to take my plate away, and I'm going to cut out this whole square on my tracing paper because it'll be easier. I know most of you probably won't have it in a roll, but depending on what you use, it might be easier to cut out there. I'll throw that over here. And this is going to be my guide. I don't want to cut out on this line, but I want to cut out around it. So I want to cut out about that far away. This is similar to sewing. It's called a seam allowance. It's called giving yourself some space to work. And give yourself as much as you want here. Alright, and then I'll just throw this in the trash. Next up, I'm going to carefully, and you'll notice that mine kind of curves in a little bit, so I'm going to use this as the top. Carefully fold that in half, but don't crease it. And then fold that again, and do a teeny little crease right here. That way you'll know where the center is. And then I'm going to put a little dot right here where the center is. So this is where the fractal part comes in. So I'm going to look at my fractal here, my nature fractal. And so what we're going to do is create a suncatcher that shows off these cool fractal patterns. We're going to kind of make a fractal out of the fractals. So I noticed that this is where it branches off, so I'm going to make that my center point. And I'm noticing this pattern that we have branch, branch, then branching. So I want to trace over that in my suncatcher. I'm going to put the center point there. And I'm going to pick a colored pencil. I like this pretty blue, so I'm going to use this blue. I'm going to hold it down with one hand, and I'm just going to trace over that picture with my blue. And I'm going to make sure that I get all those points where I see my pattern. So you can see where it branches off and creates a fractal shape. I'm going to go up into this one because you can see it even clearer here. And I'm just going to trace over wherever I see a branch off. And I'm going to go on to my last one here. And you can see how I illustrated all those points where it branches off into a fractal shape. And just for the fun of it, I'm just going to go in and get like these little flowery parts at the top. And you notice I didn't necessarily trace the whole flower, just the part where I saw the pattern, because we're focusing on the patterns here. And once I've done that, I'm going to pick another color. So I think I might pick this light green. And I'm going to rotate my circle, recenter it, and trace that whole thing again. So it's going to be overlapping a little bit. That's what we want to see because that'll make it look real cool. So I'm going to just trace my stem again, and then go up and start tracing my fractal. It might not look exactly the same each time based on how you lined it up, but you can definitely see where I get those branch offs. And now that I've traced that again, I'm just going to keep repeating until I've got a design that I like. So I'm going to rotate that some more, keeping my center point as the middle. And I'm going to trace it upside down now. And it'll get a little, use this pink, and it'll get a little harder to see as you keep overlapping. That's okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. You're just looking to show off those cool branching off patterns. You can kind of do some guesswork here and there if you can't see exactly what you're doing, or if you're using a more opaque tracing paper. And even if you don't have any tracing paper, you can try taping a piece of paper to the window. First tape on your guide picture, and then hold your paper over that. It won't shine through as well when you put it in your Suncatcher, but it'll still work better than trying to do it without a window. Yeah, I'm kind of guessing a little bit here because it is a little bit hard to see. But you get the idea, is that you want to just show all those patterns that you saw on your nature walk. And I'm going to just keep tracing over my picture until I finished up with the design that I like. You're also under no obligation to stay on that middle point. Like right here, I'd like to see my patterns a little better, so I stretched it out a little bit. And I'm going to try it from here. I think I can see that a lot better too. I don't want to overdo it, so I'm going to say that this is my design. You can see that original tracing here, and you can see how it kind of matches my fractal. And I'm going to bring this up so you can see my face again, but you can definitely see all those splitting off patterns in each color. And I think I've got a really cool design here. It even kind of looks like a snowflake. So I'm going to call this my finished design. You can see all of those fractals in that design. You can see all those patterns that repeat. And now I'm going to turn this into a suncatcher. Alright, so I'm going to put my guide picture aside. I'm going to pick up this frame I made again. And I'm going to line it up like this. And it might be easier. It's up to you what side you want to use. Whether you want to use the curvy side or the flat, the more concave or the curvy side of your plate. And it also will very much depend on what kind of your plate you use, because you want to have the same size. But you can decide what side you want to use. I'm thinking, I'm going to have this side going out. And I'm going to need a glue stick. I forgot to tell y'all to grab a glue stick. One moment. Glue stick. So, I'm not going to put the glue on my tracing paper, but I'm going to put it on the wrong side, so the side where you won't see it on the plate. And this is why we left that seam allowance here. That's why we left this ring here, because we're going to position that so that it hits the glue on the plate. And your circle that you made might not line up perfectly. Mine didn't, because the one that you drew, mine did not quite end up perfect because I ended up cutting this into a neater circle. So I'm just going to take a pencil and try and erase that a little bit. That's how you want to use pencil when you do these kind of things. Alright, I cleaned that up a little. And this is my colorful side. So I'm going to center that in the plate. And I'm going to put a ring of glue around my plate edge. And I'm using the purple glue that you can see. I think that helps a lot. I'm going to take my glue and just do a ring around the edge of my plate. Just make sure I get that edge covered. And it'll dry clear. So, then I'll take this with the colorful side facing down, and I'll position it so it's centered. And then press that down. And I'm going to look and, oh, whoops. And you might accidentally pull it up. That's okay, you can just position it again. And you might just want to just smooth it down on top of the glue ring you made. And you might even want to hold it down for a moment, just to make sure it sticks. And make sure you do this on top of a paper towel or a piece of cardboard or something like that. Please don't glue directly onto your table. Now I've let this dry, and it looks something like this. And I'm gonna run, I got some string and a hole puncher. And I'm going to pick an area to be the top of my Suncatcher. And I'm looking at it. I think I like it facing this way. So I'm going to take my hole puncher and punch a hole right where I want my top to be. I'm going to do it right here. And throw that little hole piece away. And then I might decorate my frame a little bit. I think it looks a little plain, so I'm going to decorate a little. You can do your patterns again if you want to, or you can just do some fun colors, which is what I might do. And then I'll show you how to hang it up. Alright, so I went ahead and colored the edges of my paper plate and punched a hole in the top. So next I'm going to take a bit of string. That should be enough. Not about a little more than a foot. And cut that off. Then fold that in half like this. Take one end of your string and connect it to the other like this. So you'll have like a loop. And I actually cut way too much here. You'll want less than a foot. But stick the two loose ends through your hole. Bring it through the loop and pull it like that. And the loose edges should be at the top now. You'll tie those together like this until you get a loop about the size you want. However much you want your Suncatcher to dangle in your window. So this would be about this long. I think I want mine a little bit shorter. I'm going to pull it a little tighter, then hold that down, and tie another knot. You might need someone to help you hold it down, or you can try and pinch it in one hand, and loop it around. And eventually, you probably want someone to help you out there, but you'll have a knot like this. And then you're just going to want to double knot that. Keep it a little sturdier. And then you can either cut your loose ends off or tie them in a little bow or something. So I tied a little bow at the top, and this is how my Suncatcher looks. And you would just hang it in a window from the little loop you made. And you can see your fractals. If anyone asks what they are, you can explain how it's a stem thing. And let me see if I can get my computer back so you can see how it catches the light, that it shines through your transparent paper. and if you put it in the sun, it'll light up your fractal. So that is how you make a nature fractal suncatcher. So please, if you, that's going to about wrap up our craft. The last thing to do would be to put all your supplies away. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments of this post. I'll keep an eye on them. Or if you want to share your fractal suncatcher, post the photo that you took of your nature fractal that you found and the suncatcher you made in the comments. I would love to see what everybody finds. And I hope you had fun with your craft. Again, please let me know if you have any questions, and have a great day. Bye!